Okay, so I haven't made one of these in a while, but this is one of my favorite kind of videos. It's a meta commentary, right? So reading through the comments people have left on videos that I've made, and not like late night people do, but like the actual high quality comments. I love them. So this is a video I made a few days ago about, I don't want to get out of here because I might. It's about the problem with voter ID laws, question mark. So earnestly asking a question about like why it was so easy for me to, go and vote without an ID, potentially vote twice if I, you can watch the video for the rest. If I went to a different precinct, etc. And here's a great answer somebody gave, basically discussing that, there's a disproportionate number of people in the US from certain ethnic groups that do not have IDs, and so passing a voter ID law would effectively disenfranchise them, which is a pretty damn good argument for not passing a voter ID law, right? It seems. But, like, what's the solution, right? What's the solution? Where does he say it? Right here. If that was the real reason, they would suggest giving all voters a free ID. Okay, that's just true, right? Like everybody should get a free ID, right? If we want to make sure there's no like election integrity, there aren't any election integrity issues. I shared a link to this really great podcast called Unexpected Elements, or a link to a YouTube video I did a clip of it from, and it basically talks about Estonia's voting system, where they have basically everybody in the country has an ID, a digital ID that they can use, and they use cryptography with a double-blind envelope system to vote, and they can change their vote to sort of prevent the possibility of coercion, right? So if I'm coercing you to vote in a certain way, you can vote that way, and then when I walk away and you're like in a place where you feel safe, you can change your vote, right? So it seems reasonable, seems good. And then we got a follow-up comment, so I'm going to just read through this comment, or at least some of the highlights for me. Seems way more efficient to me talking about Estonia's e-voting system, but you'd hear no end of it if it were implemented here. Quote, they just want to do it so they can rig it, end quote. Cynical view. I don't know. I'm not saying it's wrong. Cynical view. The recent goings-on have me feeling rather poorly about our current democratic system in general. People are voting based on the economy with no understanding of how the economy is. I would add to it, with little recognition of the fact that, like, the things you do when your administration is in power do not just affect the economy when your administration is in power, right? So if Trump has a 4-year term, we can expect that a lot of what happens in the economy during those 4 years will be a result of what happened the last 4 years. And then the term after that, right after Trump's administration leaves, the second time, a lot of what happens in that term will be a result of what happened during the Trump administration, right? But people a lot of us just vote based on how we feel about the economy, right? And that's just a fact. So he goes on, anecdotally, they go on, don't know their gender. Most of the people I know cite the poor economy and inflation, but if you ask for any specifics, you realize they don't know what is bad about the economy or what inflation is at, or even what inflation is. I mean, fair points. People vote on how they feel about the economy, and the economy doesn't currently feel, with the exception of Bitcoin and I guess the recent jump, but we're talking pre-election, the economy didn't feel like that great. They just remember when things were cheaper at the grocery store and think the other guy will bring back pre-COVID prices. I hope people don't think that. And somehow blanket tariffs are a solution to this, which again, no one can explain. Yeah, the tariff thing or the 20% Trump sales tax, depending on which language you're adhering to. I agree, but let's I agree that it's probably not going to generate enough revenue to fill the gap that we have in the federal deficit, the annual deficit. But yeah, as far as the definition of inflation, they just remember when things were cheaper at the grocery store. Inflation, even if inflation were at zero, prices would not go down, right? But it is also true that we adjust, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I am still shocked when I buy like my morning muffins from Safeway. They used to be $3.99, and now they're over $7, right? It is, I notice that. And I also recognize that those prices are not likely to go down. What we hope for is that wages, will increase, right? So that the price of, so that it's no real difference to me. So that it feels the same to me buying it when it was $3.99 as it does now that it's $7.37 or whatever. That's an aircraft, maybe, but anyhow, we'll move along. In addition to our democracy is failing in important ways. There seems to be no will to curb manipulation to curb manipulation of our populace through rampant bots on social media. The tribal herd mentality of people makes them likely to fall in line with manufactured, quote, popular, unquote, views. Many of the media figureheads are on the payroll of foreign adversaries. Interesting claim. And our checks and balances are failing in unprecedented ways. Unprecedented is strong, but I think I get what you're getting at there. I haven't lost total faith, but I think I probably catch your vibe. Our president can no longer be investigated for most criminal actions he might take while in office. Fair point. Okay. I guess I should have kept reading. Much of this is happening at the behest of Russia, who is seeking to show that democracies are inferior to authoritarian states. Interesting claim. And at the behest, what does that mean? Like, what involvement do you think Russia has? Even if we grant that maybe it would be beneficial to Putin to show that democracies are inferior to authoritarian states, what at the behest of sort of implies that they're doing it, right? That they're doing something to assume what you're saying here, to influence U.S. elections. And I'm not currently aware of evidence of that for this election. As making more authoritarian states can propagate a world order where that governance style is more stable. I'm not sure about that last part. Is a world filled with countries led by strong men, right? Or I guess they could be strong women in authoritarian states. Is that type of a global system more stable than the one that we, I think, seek, that's more democratic, right? Democracies rarely fight each other, right? The theory of democratic peace. Sadly, I find this persuasive. Interesting. At least our current system is failing. I find that pretty persuasive as well. We need something better to combat these forms of governance. If I could wave a magic wand and change our government, I think something like a technocracy with democratic elements might be superior. That's a strong claim. I'm not sure we even need a central leader. Wow. That makes me think. That doesn't strike me as clearly wrong, you know? But it's also like there's hard to get there. There's a reason they have wave a magic wand in there. But yeah, having people who actually know what they're doing in charge, and having having the democratic elements seems, I mean, the devil would be in the details, right? How would we make sure everybody's effectively represented? How would we sort of form a government where the preferences of all people, as opposed to effectively like the preferences of a small subset, are really represented? And when I say small subset, I'm talking about like the people who vote in primaries in your party, if you are the one in Congress, for example, in the United States, and your campaign donors, or the donors to the PACs, the super PACs that support you. All that's to say, I think we need something like logarithmic vote power. So he's done his research. He knows about different, suggestions. I think that comes out of BYU. I think I watched a lecture or two from a conference at BYU on logarithmic voting, where showing competency in a subject gives you a say in that field. Okay, well, that's new to me. Logarithmic voting power was, as I'd understood it, was, say there are 20 issues on the ballot, you can sort of distribute, and you get 20 votes. If you care a hell of a lot more, or know a hell of a lot more about, and maybe that's what he's saying, about a particular subject, right? You can vote with diminishing returns, right? So you could say, throw 4 votes, like not vote on the issues you don't know stuff about, and put 4 votes, which would count as 2, I think, depending on if my logarithmic math is correct, on the issue you know and care about. Like, say you know a ton about homelessness and there are 20 issues on the ballot, you could put, and you don't know much about schools or don't have kids in schools or whatever, and you're just not as either invested in those outcomes or knowledgeable. You could maybe put 8 of your votes on the homelessness issue, and is my log math? Gosh, I gotta review logarithmic math. It would either, and I think then it would count as 3. Yeah. But then you're like not getting a say in the other things about which you're less educated or invested or what have you. No need to apologize for the long rant. Just seems like not many people around that want to actually think about what's going on and what might be done to improve things. I feel you, man, but we're here. There are people around, and you're proving that right now. So I appreciate you at the Damped, and I'll post this video in my comment reply. All right, much love. Bye.